Hi, I'm Bob McMurray. I walked into McLaren for the first time in 1968 and I left in 2002. Goodness knows what I did in between, but I thoroughly enjoyed all of it.
Hi, my name's Gary Anderson. I worked at McLaren from 1977 to 1980 as a mechanic, and then I became chief mechanic. I also did a little bit of design and development work with the team, but very interesting years.
Hello, I'm Howden Ganley. I'm one of the original McLaren employees. In fact, when I joined, there were two others, Wal Wilmot and Tyler Alexander, and so I was the third man in the workshop. I joined as a gopher, and then they found I could weld, so suddenly I became the fabricator. Big promotion.
There you are, sitting on James's car all these years later. How does it make you feel?
I'm simply in awe. I've seen it. I saw it once before at the filming for Rush at Blackbush, but to see it again turned out so beautifully. It's just, I'm still boggled by it.
Hello, my name is Neil Pannell. I worked for McLaren from 1976 to 1979 on the IndyCar program in the United States.
Just by being at the reunion today and you see the faces coming in, that was where McLaren was built. And I'm not talking necessarily about the 2000s, but in the 60s, 70s and 80s is where McLaren was built. And the people that are here today are responsible for that. We've got the designers here of the original cars, we've got all sorts of things. So as you travel around Europe, people are very aware that there is a great heritage of McLaren around, especially in this 50th year, when they're seeing pictures of Bruce and they're seeing pictures of other people and other cars that were involved with McLaren. So the heritage is very much part of everybody that is here at this reunion, and it's just a wonderful thing to be part of.
How does it feel to be back amongst so many familiar faces?
Oh, it's absolutely fantastic to see all the faces, and I think see the joy on everybody else's faces catching up with each other. Fantastic.
What was the young Ron Dennis like when you sat down and chatted to him about coming to the team?
Well, I remember on my interview day with Ron, I travelled all the way from Northamptonshire. It was on a Saturday, and Ron was late, and which is most unlike Ron, to be honest with you. And so when we first started talking, I could see he had ambition in him, and obviously I didn't know at the time that the vision he had and the purpose that he carried it through. But he had this way about him to convince me to join.
What do you remember about those early days? Because 77 was an iconic period in McLaren's history, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, and it's an honour and a pleasure to be here with all this group of people. I mean, seeing them again after probably 30, 35 years, some of them, it's fantastic.
You were on the IndyCar program where McLaren won 3 Indy 500s. What's it like being out there working on that program with the famous McLaren name?
It was very different because in those days it was more seat of the pants because we were a very small program in a very big pond at that point.
You look back to that 76 season, off the top of your head, a very special memory from that year. Can you think of anything particular?
I think, winning the US Grand Prix and the parties before and afterwards. James was at all of them. You know, he wanted to be with the people and with the mechanics. You know, in the celebration at the Seneca Lodge.
The infamous Seneca Lodge footage.
Yeah, and I suppose the ultimate moment was after the Japanese Grand Prix. He climbed out of the car, totally confused, didn't know what the result was.
And that was that famous moment when Teddy was doing three fingers to him saying, "You're third, James, you're third." Yeah.
And the relief from that was just, we didn't really know what had happened ourselves. You know.
I bet that was a flight home, wasn't it?
It was, yes. Yeah.
Looking back at those early years and knowing Bruce right the way through until his own untimely passing, what's your strongest memory of him?
He was enormously determined, a very talented guy, but so nice with it. Just a wonderful person. I couldn't say, he's one of the most lovely people that I've ever met, and at the same time one of the most successful.
Also, in the last couple of days, you've visited the McLaren Technical Centre, haven't you, in Woking, and
Yes.
the monolith that place is, and I mean, it is a staggering building, as we all
is.
know. What do you feel when you walk around there and you see, you know, the family name still attached to such a prestigious international business?
You've got to say thank you to Ron for keeping that name for all these years. It is a very different building, and it's a fantastic building. It'll never have the heart and soul that some of the old factories had, but that's just time and moving on. So
They call it progress.
They call it progress.
Indeed. Well, enjoy the rest of your stay. I know we've got some surprises for you tonight, some old faces that you won't have seen for a long, long time are going to be with us. Jan McLaren, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
McLaren was no exception. Working with Gordon Coppock, for example, was a pleasure. Gordon was a fantastic designer. And yes, I mean, the team itself sort of, I suppose you might say, went downhill in the latter 70s, and Ron Dennis came in and took it over. But it wasn't for the want of trying. It was just the fact that the Lotus and the ground effect system started to work, and it was a new era coming in. And it's a bit like currently Red Bull and some of the other teams. Somebody always gets that advantage.
James was a great favourite of ours, and my wife Sean, because she used to look after him in the motorhome that she primarily ran. And there's an awful lot of stuff about James that will never be told, simply because it was personal stuff.
Yeah.
James was a wonderful, shall we say, raconteur, and he was always a great entertainer of people. He was a person that you could immediately, I believe, identify with, although he was a completely different person. He was a race driver in the extreme sense.
The 80s was a huge turning point, wasn't it, when Ayrton arrived? I mean, we were both there together in 88. What do you remember about those first couple of months there when he was on the scene with us?
Yeah, it was a different guy, because obviously he was coming into the team as a very fast racing driver. He'd been through Formula 3 and he'd been with Lotus and other things, and it was very obvious that there was a very fast racing driver coming into the team. And this is down to Ron Dennis, with actually getting the very best drivers at the very best time at the peak of their careers coming into McLaren, and that proved to be right, because we won 15 out of 16 races quite quickly. Ayrton was a man apart. He was a very singular person in many ways. I mean, he got very close to my wife at races, and used to read the Bible with her and all that sort of thing. Very intense person. But the team was Ayrton at that time. The team moulded itself around various drivers, and Ayrton was one of those drivers.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Association, it does indeed give Matthew and I enormous pleasure to welcome you here this evening. I'm fortunate to know a great many of you in the room, and I've had the pleasure of working with a number of you. But for those I don't know, please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Richard West. I was the sponsorship coordinator of McLaren International from 1984 through until 1988. To get our evening underway, it is my enormous pleasure to welcome to the stage two people. Matthew Jeffries, who you all know, who was chassis design engineer at McLaren from 79 to 2005. But equally, we have somebody who I know you will take great pleasure in welcoming to the stage with Matthew this evening, and that is Bruce's widow, Patty McLaren Prickett. Will you please welcome them both to the stage?
Ladies and gentlemen, it is a huge honour and privilege to be standing here with Patty. I cannot tell you what it means to me personally, but on behalf of everybody here, to see everybody here and to welcome you all to this event. I just wanted really to have Patty with me to introduce her to her extended family, which I think we all are.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Patty. Yes. In September 1963, Bruce McLaren started his motor racing company and founded it with passion and ambition. And that passion and ambition, I think, has stood the test of 50 years, because every one of us has it ingrained in us. And I often say to people that if we cut ourselves in half, just like a stick of rock, we would have McLaren written through us. And I think that's right for everybody in this room. So, so it's with enormous pride that I say thank you for coming, and please enjoy the evening, and perhaps also take the time to think of a few friends who, for one reason or another, can't be with us tonight, not least Bruce himself. So, Patty, thank you for being here.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I may, can I ask the two of you just to unveil the Bruce bust, if you would, please? Ladies and gentlemen, Bruce McLaren. What do you think?
The thing I think that everyone here in this room needs to understand and remember, and I think mostly everyone does, that it's you people here that made McLarens, because without the people, nothing happens.
It was a passion, I guess that's why we were all here. We had a passion, we had an enormous passion, and in those very early days that I worked for Bruce at Cooper's along with Mike Barney, and it's silly to talk money now, but it was like, I think I was getting £12 a week, and I hated to tell them, but I would have done it for nothing.
My days at McLaren hugely influenced the rest of my life. It was 4 people that really had the biggest effect on that. Obviously, Bruce taught me that there's nothing you can't do if you want to. Teddy Mayer, he didn't know that we would work for nothing. But he was the fairest man that I have met. I guess Tyler Alexander set an example and led the way without anything else happening. And
Yeah.
it was just hugely, for the rest of my life, a big part of the way he led us.
Yes, yeah.
And the 4th person, Kerry Taylor, who
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I can tell you're very emotional about that point. Would you please welcome the man who in 1970 drove a McLaren M14A, American motorsport legend. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dan Gurney. Hey Dan, it's like being on the Letterman show, isn't it, eh? How are you, first of all? Are you well?
I'm fine, thank you. Medium well.
Excellent. Thank you very much for coming into the office today to do this call with us. It means so much to me. We've got Joe Ramirez here, and when I told him you were going to be on earlier on, he was absolutely thrilled, and so many other people as well. Dan, can we start by leaving aside the Gurney flap and the bubble, that wonderful picture that's behind you? Tell me a little bit about it, the black and white one, and the guys in it, and what you were doing there.
Well, there it was. We were in Zandvoort, and it was probably 2 nights before the race, and everyone was in the same restaurant, and there was a band there, and since we had enough mischief, each of us, why we got up and pretended that we were playing in a band, and this photograph came of it, and of course Bruce is there, and Graham and Jimmy, and I'm there, and Carol Godin de Beaufort. I'm not looking at it right now, so I don't remember the rest of them.
Obviously, reading out, you heard what I was saying about you there, and there's so much more to tell. But tell us a little bit, if you will, those early days with Bruce and the guys around the team. What was it like, really?
Well, we were. I heard another fellow mention passion a little bit earlier, and we certainly had huge amounts of passion for what we were doing, and we were aware of the history of the various circuits that we went to, and that always put a target for us to try to exceed. And but Bruce, he was a bit on the quiet side, but he was always thinking big. I think long before the rest of us, he was thinking about bringing out his own car for the road. not necessarily racing, but for the road, and he was just a big thinker.
Back there in Zandvoort, when you had that big accident many, many years ago, when you had a brake problem on the car and you went off and hurt yourself, and the rest is history. I was reading somewhere that you had a technique of braking where occasionally, yeah, it's true, isn't it? I can tell by the smile. You had a great technique of braking, which if I read on Wikipedia was correct, was called the chicken shit braking style. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. The premier late breaker was Sterling Moss at that time, and I was trying to emulate Sterling to the best of my ability. And what you do is you're hard on it until the last instant, and then you're really hard on the brakes. Well, it blew the brake line off when I got on the brakes, and I lost my all my rear brakes. And anyway, so afterwards, I didn't want to go there again. And that's what I came up with. I was telling David E. Davis of Car and Driver magazine at the time that I had come up with the Dan Gurney chicken shit way of doing brake.
For all those years you competed against the McLaren dynasty and had your own teams, have you got a message for all the guys and ladies that are here this evening?
Well, I have to say, I'm very proud to be considered a friend of Bruce and all of the competitors that have been part of their empire, and it means a great deal to me that you called. I appreciate that very much also, Richard, and well, I hope you're having a great evening and you have as many great memories as have been rekindled with this program.
Dan, I cannot thank you enough. I know you've come in specially to be with us this evening. It really is a huge pleasure seeing you again. I know everybody here greatly appreciates it, and I'd ask everybody in the room before we cut this signal off to show their appreciation and know how much we'd love to have had you here.
Who remembers George Marks? Wonderful man. He lived in this office next to Tom Quirk and our production office. He smoked himself not to death, but I presume he must have gone by now because he's on the way to work one morning. I found a dead squirrel, so I'm quite into animals. Brought the squirrel into work, into his office, opened the bottom drawer, which the girls had refused to clean, rotten old sandwiches, whatever. Placed a squirrel into the drawer, standing upright with a fag butt out of its mouth, and closed the door, locked the office. Thank you all.
Ladies and gentlemen, Leo Wybrod.
And then I joined McLaren. And that was, of course, magic. That was fantastic. It was the Yardley team first, because Mike, unfortunately, had his accident at Nürburgring. Mike Harewood broke his leg, so he went to recover from that to New Zealand, and so on. So they offered me a contract, you know. Then I met most of the guys that are still sitting around here. There's one, Kerry. Hello. Alistair, of course, and Alistair always gave me a lot of shit. I mean, seriously, Alistair. He just said, come on, focus, you idiot. What did you do again? I mean, you could have been such a star, but no, you're not, you wasted it again, and so on. And I must say, McLaren as a team, the car, Gordon Koppbooks, you know, who is also here, made a wonderful car. The M23 was a fantastic car. It was safe, you could trust it, and, you know, it was a very dependable team and car and everything.
The real story of 76 was an unbelievable story. So much happened and so much went on. It was dramatic from start to finish.
I think that came out very well in the BBC Two documentary.
But, so they've made a film and they've overemphasized some stuff and glossed over some stuff. And I think the overall effect, hopefully, is great. You know, people will love it.
As a family, we've always been rather nervous about people writing books and particularly Hollywood films, for the obvious reasons of focusing in on certain aspects of Dad's character and antics. But so yeah, they had one dinner and a couple of phone calls, and I think they kind of agreed that obviously there's no stopping anybody making a film about anyone, particularly a dead person. But kind of worked out that if anybody was going to do it, these guys were probably it, and we're probably going to do, you know, as good a job as any. Finished product, you know, personally, I'm very happy with it. I think it's a great film. I think Alistair's very right in what he says. There are bits which I'm sure all of you guys will pick up on that weren't quite right, or they've glossed over certain areas and stuff. But you know, it's a Hollywood film. It's not a documentary, and it certainly makes me feel, and I'm sure Fred and the rest of the family, you know, extremely proud that you know, that anybody would want to make a film about that season. And it's just great that, you know, it's going to be remembered more widely than it already is today.
James is the hero. We were sort of right behind him, but behind us was the whole factory. So really, it's a credit to everybody's hard work. And I have to say, we had great leaders. Teddy Mayer, Gordon Coppock, Don Beresford, and Alistair.
Yeah.
They led
amazing
the
talent
team,
in one
they
team.
led everybody, they led the factory.
You know, there was one time I kind of remember, which was back in Colnbrook days. We had a problem. We had someone who used to occupy the toilet. The toilet used to be in the middle of the workshop. And we had someone who used to occupy the toilet for hours on end, you know, and we couldn't figure out who this person was. And one day there was someone in there. It was a bit of a lockout. He'd been in there for ages. So Huey took it into his own hands. And Huey got a fire extinguisher. And he went up to the toilet and he let this fire extinguisher go underneath the doorway. So we thought, that'll sort it out. And so we all went back to working. And we were horrified because Phil Kerr came out, straightening his tie up, straightened his suit up, and walked straight through the workshop, didn't say a word to anyone. And we thought, Jesus Christ, we get this.
I want to talk to you about one particular mission, and that was the immense act of bravery that you undertook in 1976 when that awful accident happened at the German Grand Prix. And Harold Ertl, I think, Arturo Mazzurio, Guy Edwards, and yourself. And I know when I said to you earlier, you were the man who stood up on the cockpit and pulled Nicky out. What was it like? And a very modest reply, you said, I ruined a really good pair of racing boots. So maybe you'd like to tell us a bit more about it, really. Brett.
This is certainly not what I had hoped my racing career would be remembered for. A world championship would have been nice. But I have a different take on this incident. I was there, something had to be done, I did it, end of story. I would have much rather have won the race. I feel sorry for Jochen leading in his home country. He would have won that race. Life gives you these things. Something happens, you're there, you do something. That's my take on that particular incident. Can I shift the subject a little bit?
Yeah, please do.
I have an apology to Alistair. I could have saved him 37 years of anguish over the Japanese Grand Prix. Because after that race, I called up James and we talked. I said, congratulations, you won the World Championship. How did you do it? He said, I had these cool tires. They're really cool tires. So, Alistair, do you feel better now?
It is the paint that crosses the line first, and I'm very, very proud of that.
What about the weight? 3.5 kilos or less?
I'll make a statement here. John Barnard's here tonight.
He's there, just down there.
He said to me once, I know what you're going to do when you and that Ron Dennis lashing all that paint on my car.
You joined in 1984 as team coordinator, and we shared that little office upstairs at Boundary Road. There was Malcolm Billiard, Liz Wood, a couple of other people sat in that office. And perhaps you could give us an early view on those days when, from the drawing office below, you'd hear the banging on the stairs and you'd say to Liz and Malcolm and myself, JB's on his way up the stairs. Do you remember those early days and shall I call it the passion with which JB sat about talking to Ron on certain subjects?
Right, well, first of all, I want to echo David Ryan's words and thank you.
No,
and
come on.
Matthew for absolutely fantastic reunions. Thank you very much. Yes, I was lucky enough to be at the right time and the right place, as they said, and I started with McLaren on Christmas '83. So in '84, yes, we were sharing a little office, and next door it was Ron. And as you said, when where is John?
He's just down here.
When John come in, wow, the walls just boom, 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 boom. I think I never stopped packing my bag and say what a lucky I was, being at the right place at the right time. I think we had that season, 1988. I mean, winning 15 out of 16 races. It was absolutely fantastic.
One sec.
No, it's Emerson Fittipaldi.
I'm going to have to tell you the rest of this story, because on this telephone here, if I'm correct, is 1974 world champion Emerson Fittipaldi. Emerson, good evening. It's Richard West. I really, Emerson, I would love, this is the most unexpected phone call I've ever had in my life, I have to be honest, but it's a pleasure to hear from you, Emerson. We can't put you on the PA system, but I can pass a message on from you to the guys here. We have 240 people here from all eras of McLaren. We have Bruce's widow, Patty here. We have the McLaren family. We have people from your era and many more besides. What would you like me to say to them on your behalf? One second, Emerson. Just hold 1 second, please. Put it on speaker. I'm going to try something, Emerson, that's never ever been done before. I'm going to try and put the phone next to my clip microphone and see if people can hear you. Just bear with me 1 second, please. Start speaking, please, Emerson.
Okay, I would like to say some words that I apologize. I'm not there tonight. I know you guys are having a lot of fun. I'd like to thank the invitation, and it's a great pleasure. For me, it was an honor to be a small part of this huge success of the McLaren history of 50 years anniversary. I want to congratulate Bruce McLaren family. I know they are there, David Hume's family. I want to say to memory of Tim Mayer. I want to say, thanks for Phil Kerr, Tyler Alexander, Arthur Cardo, and I cannot say all the names from everybody, but special tonight, Ronnie Cochran. And I want to remind everybody that next year will be the 40th anniversary for our World Championship, and for sure I will be there in England. We'll have to make a big commemoration next year. And I want to say hello to John Barnard as well, who participated on the project Daily 23. It was so successful car. And thanks to everybody. I'm sorry I'm not there again tonight. God bless you all. And next year make a big party for the 40th anniversary for the first World Championship. Thank you.
Emerson.
Well, may I say what a privilege it is to be here with you all. From all the decades of Bruce McLaren motor racing, Patty, Jan, it is a real honour for me to have played a very small part in the success of the team. So, and my old mucker George, I've still got no fingers left, rubbing down bodywork for him. And getting stickers wrong. And Michelin one, he said, brought photographic proof that I had it on the piss, so I got trouble for that. So yeah, it was wonderful that Tifosi, because the whole grandstand in about 10 seconds went to this noise and row, and then also up above the VIP Bernie thing, so going like this, wolf whistling. And then the Ferrari guy holds out his board, and that was all right. They quite like that. And then I went up on the wall with the Ferrari guy going hand in hand, and we were both holding up the Ferrari thing, and they didn't know whether to cry or support them. So that wasn't good.
These McLaren years meant a great deal for me, because I did become a more mature person and definitely a better driver.
You're reunited with this famous creation of yours, the MP44. We talked about it a lot at Brooklands last year. What's it like to be back with the old girl again?
Well, I still think it looks pretty good. And yeah, we had a lot of good results with it, and it represented really a lot of good times. Obviously, we had a lot of success. It was difficult in its birth, I suppose, you know, lots of work, lots of late nights, not a lot of time to do it. And so we were really pleased when it worked out well, because it wasn't until that day at Imola when it first ran that I'd ever really had time to stop and think, is it going to be any good or not? And fortunately, it was
pretty good. It was pretty good. Yeah, and you spent a lot of time with Emanuele out in Japan, not only sharing the testing program and engineering him and getting that together, but you also had some very private times with both Emanuele and Ayrton, didn't you? And that story you were telling me about the NSX Honda, I think, is worthy of retelling.
We need to ask Ayrton to test these things. He said to me, "Come on, just jump in one and we'll go for a spin." And I mean, I'm just hugely privileged to have done that with him.
What was the lap like, or laps like? Fantastic, I would imagine.
Unbelievable. Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, controlled, but very, very quick. Yeah.
Yeah.
As I remember it, I just got back from one of my regular visits to Porsche, and I wandered out. At that time we were doing refueling, or they were allowing refueling in '83. So we made up this rig, which, looking back on it, was absolutely terrifying because it was high pressure and a whole tank full of petrol. And I designed this fitting to go on the car, to go on the existing car, which was never designed for refueling. And so we built this test rig outside in the yard, always thinking about safety, of course. And I just got back from my Porsche visit, and I wandered out the back into the yard, and there was this mess sitting on this.
Can we just pull the slide up again, guys, just so we can remind ourselves, just on the screen behind JB.
There was this mess.
Yeah, mess is a good word, John.
That was actually a brand new chassis, never raced or rallied. So, and there was no one around at the time, and I sort of stood there looking at it, and then a few people appeared, and all I remember is somebody saying, "Ron told us to put the pressure up." And that's what happened. But the funny thing is that tonight, when I arrived, I started talking to Davy Ryan, and it turns out that the real reason it blew up is because Davy missed putting the vent pipe on when they.
It must have made out of a bang, huh?
So Ron came out. Ron was there, and I just heard Ron told us to put the pressure up. So I unleashed my best Prince of Darkness job on Ron.
I think that's a bit of an understatement. Prince of Darkness is not bad.
Well,
Darth Vader came to the fore,
a few people have said to me that it was a fairly good dressing down. I think I blacked out afterwards. So, but so anyway, I really owe Ron an apology. Actually,
because it wasn't Ron.
Because it wasn't actually. It turns out it was Davey who cocked it up.
God, I'm so glad we've got that on film. JB apologising.
I'm not going to apologise anyway.
No, absolutely. What does McLaren mean to you, David?
Well, put it this way. I once worked for Lotus, which made me massively proud because of Jimmy Clark and everything else. But whenever I walk through McLaren, I've never felt more proud, or when I left that big, because you just think what a fantastic team this is, the brilliance of the achievements, everything it stands for. You walk away from there thinking, well, what have you done in your life? And it's so inspirational. I think McLaren is far and away the best team in the world.
It's very good of you to say.
I found my way to Cooper's via the courtesy of Jack Brabham, and the car that we were meant to have had was still in the chassis jig, and when Bruce arrived 2 weeks previously, was still on the tube rack. So we ended up helping them to build the car. As we got the chassis off, we had to put brackets on and build the vehicle up, and we had a fantastic year. Bruce won the Formula 2 championship for Europe, and we went back to New Zealand with a lot more, I would say, fame than what we'd left with. And we truly had a great year, and it was a pleasure for me and an honour to work with such a gentleman. Thank you.
Colin, thanks very much. And Patty, thank you for bringing Colin up. Thank you. Welcome to join us. Thanks, Simon. Simon got a call from me a few months back actually, with Matthew, and we said, we'd like to recognise some very special people in McLaren's history, and several of the speakers have recognised them tonight. Simon has done these original pictures. They are at the side here, and there are two over there. What we would like to do is we would like to invite JB, we'd like to invite Steve Nichols, and we'd like to invite Gordon Koppak to the stage. We would also like to invite to the stage Joachim Mass, John Watson, and Emanuele Pirro. And we would like the respective drivers of those eras with Simon to present Simon's pictures as a token of everyone's appreciation. Simon is a huge motor racing fan. He has Ayrton Senna things signed from Ayrton to him for doing paintings. And we would like to recognise their talent for what they've contributed over the years to this team. And there is no better way of doing it than owning a Simon Taylor original picture. McLaren's design talent. Thank you very much indeed, Simon. Thank you. Please welcome back to the stage one final time, Matthew Jeffries.
Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a true privilege for me to put this together with Richard. And, of course, I couldn't have done it without Richard, so please put your hands together for my wonderful co-host, Richard West. I hope tonight has been a little bit different because I was very keen that it was a celebration of 50 years which was for the people who made McLaren, and it's very important to me that the evening reflected those who perhaps over the years probably needed a little bit more recognition than they had in their time. So thank you for coming very much. It's been wonderful tonight. It surpassed all my expectations, so it's been a real privilege and honour for me to meet so many people from all eras of McLaren, and I'm truly honoured to really have got to have known everybody from Wally onwards throughout the history, and that for me is really something very special, which I will always treasure. And it's so wonderful, I think, also to just reflect on 50 incredible years of McLaren and celebrate a tapestry of McLaren in a way where I've managed to, with Richard's help of course, assembled so many golden threads of that tapestry in one room. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you. But there's one very special person I mustn't forget, and that's my lovely wife, Sue. So, thank you.
So as a small token of our appreciation, Matthew, girls, please come up here and accept a bunch of flowers from Matthew and I.
I just want to say thank you and how proud I am of you, Matthew, for putting all this together and to getting everybody here in this room tonight. I know how much it's meant to you and how much hard work you've done. And with you, Richard, without your expertise, it wouldn't have happened. You've been absolutely amazing. So I just want to say thank you, and could everybody put their hands together and say a toast for Matthew and Richard. Thank you.
Thank you, sweet. Ladies and gentlemen, this, apart from one tiny task, this really does bring me to the close of this formal part of this 50th anniversary reunion. In case you're wondering who that beautiful little girl is in that picture with Dad, it's Amanda, who's been sitting patiently at the front table this evening. Amanda, I'm sorry, it's very difficult up here to actually do what I'm doing now for me as well, but welcome, and it's so lovely to have you here. Thank you very much. lovely to have you here. Ladies and gents, for me as the co-host and your compere this evening, it's been a remarkable day. I'm very honoured to have been here, and now I'm emotional, which is always difficult. As has been said elsewhere, you can leave McLaren, but McLaren never leaves you, and that's been illustrated by this gathering. Before we go, and I'm not going to ask Patty to come back up, but I'm going to ask Matthew to present Patty as we leave with a beautiful bouquet of flowers on all of your behalves and ours. So I may leave you with that final thought. As for me, Richard West, I bid you good night, God bless, safe journeys, and thank you for being so patient.